What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi, and you guys are listening to episode 555. I don't know what that means since the video and pandemic. A lot of people go, I didn't know you did that many. I was doing audio ones, but we've been doing video ones, and now we are back here in the studio in New York. I know you guys love it. I know you guys love the... the crisp camera look and the sound, thanks to my boy here, Mike Albanese, and of course the Greek Freak in Beverly Hills there. Today, I have another great episode, another great guest, somebody that I did her amazing podcast called Next to Madison, which she does on Thursdays. And she also wrote a book. I've seen her on the comedy scene here in New York City. So we're going to talk about all this stuff. She's been on a big press tour, so I'm happy that she came on our little show. Ladies and gentlemen, Madison Malloy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And first of all, congratulations on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like 555 could be like a lucky number, so I'm honored to be that episode.
I always love when a podcast number is like that.
I know.
Like it's like a cool number to land on, and you did something really cool, man. Speaking of cool, you wrote a book during a pandemic. And you know what we always talk about? We always talk about, like, don't waste the time when you have time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there was no excuses. Like, not doing shit during pandemic means you are fucking lazy.
Exactly.
You had 2 years to sit around and figure some shit out. And while other people were like, oh, I'm just going to find myself through thoughts and I'm going to do that, you actually put the pen to paper.
Yeah.
And you wrote a book called Time to Lighten the Fuck Up. Mm-hmm. Did I say that right?
Yep.
And you're out here, it's killing it. People are buying this thing like crazy. I see you on all this press tour here.
Yeah.
What inspired the book?
So I had my own, struggles with depression and anxiety, naturally being a comic.
Oh, you're on the right show.
Yeah. So I never, growing up, I didn't really have like depression or anxiety. But when I decided to start following my dreams of being a comic is when I fell into it. Yeah. And I remember when I first experienced like real depression, somebody said to me, well, now you're truly a comic. And I go, shit, this isn't fun though. I love comedy, but I hate being sad. Like, what is going on here? So being able, and then just going on this struggle where, you're constantly broke, and then you adopt this scarcity mindset, thinking that there's never going to be enough money or opportunity or whatever, and you're living in misery. And I felt like I was just existing, just trying to clock the shows so I could put on Facebook that I was at some fucking place. But I didn't feel like I was moving myself forward because I was so stuck in my own ways. And when I was finally able to break those chains of everything, get out of the scarcity mindset, just live a more freeing life, get in touch with my faith, is when things change. And I'm like, I have to put this in a book. And I need to put it in a book that's kind of raunchy and unfiltered and raw, because that's my type of brand and my comedy and just who I am.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I've read so many self-help books, and it's like, you should do this. And it's like, hey, that sounds really good. But then you close the book and you forget it, where I describe it in a very crude way to where you'll be like, oh, that's actually fucking funny. Life is like shaving your asshole. Like, you overcomplicate it, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah, well, they'll remember that lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really, you said something there that really hit something, where I feel like so many people get focused on saying they're doing it or showing they're doing it, but as opposed to really being in it, right? Like you said, like you were going through stuff, so you would just go through the motions, and then you would post something on Facebook, hey, I was here, but you're not in the moment. Like, and one thing I like to do, listen, as comics, we always sometimes have like a feeling on stage where we're like, before we go on, we're like, man, I'm tired, or I don't know about tonight. That's a normal, I think every performer, I bet you there are actors that are about to go into a big scene and they're like, shit, dude, like my kid's going through something at school. Why am I, when they say action, I don't want to, and then all of a sudden they get in it. What I've done is really being in your act on stage takes all that away, and it's happy and fun then. We all go through things in life. And the fact that you saw that and you were like, I want to be in it more, and I'm not, because of my mental state and because of everything, and I want to change it. Did you know before pandemic, did you have any plans to write a book, or when you were sitting home and you're in Colorado You're a native of Colorado. Is your home, born and raised?
Yes.
Okay. So you're home in Colorado during pandemic. Nothing's going on in New York. Why would anybody want to be in New York at that time?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah.
It was terrible. You're sitting home and you're like, I'm going to write a fucking book, or this was something that was planned before?
I always wanted to write a book, but it was one of those things, and I think as artists, we always do it, right? We're like, we're going to do this or do this when we get this. So I always kind of wanted to write a book. I didn't know exactly what the book would be, but I'm like, nobody's going to read my book. I'm not going to get a publishing deal unless I'm famous. So I need to do this and this and this before I can do this. Once I got rid of that and said, what can I control and what can I do to drive myself forward?
Yeah.
Then I just put pen to paper. And I would work on it when I had time. And by the grace of God, I had somebody on my podcast, and they said, get your ass to Mexico for a mastermind. And it was in 3 days. So I had to find a ticket. I got a deep discount, but it was still a lot of money, more money than I was willing to spend. And I said, there's something in me that is telling me to go. So 3 days later, I'm on a plane to Mexico, and I end up at this mastermind with all these doctors and CEOs.
Yeah, so for the listeners, what's a mastermind exactly? Like
it's basically where they put like a bunch of business type people or success driven type people together, and you're focused on a particular topic, whether it's marketing, building a brand, creating a seminar, writing a book.
Right.
Any of those things. So this was called Influence, Impact, and Income. It was how to build like a 7-figure brand. And I thought, well, I don't have a seminar yet. I'm not a coach. But I'm going to go. Something told me to go. And sure enough, and it was the most amazing experience. I met all these people. And sure enough, there was my publisher.
Wow.
At this place. And I showed him my outline and what I wanted to do. And I came back and I had a deal a week later.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was like God works in your favor when you accept His help.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I kept saying, "Show me a way to get this done. Show me a way that's pushing me forward. Show me a way I can help people."
That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to get into that in a second because I'm the same way. But you said something too that I always there's no good right time. There's no right time. You know, a kid that opens for me, shout out to Tyler Horvath, funny comic out of Chicago. He opens for me sometimes. His dad works at a Vineyard Wines and stuff in Florida, and a wine shop, and they do the tasting, and he knows all about wine. And he gives Tyler a bottle of red wine, a really nice bottle. And Tyler says, "Oh, me and my girlfriend will open this at the right occasion." And his father goes, "No, there's no right occasion. Open the fucking thing. Open it whenever you want. Like, if you want to do it tonight over a burger, then do it tonight." People have this thing of like, wait. You got to wait. Oh, we got this bottle. You know what? When we have that party next year, it's like, no. Sit down, open the bottle, and fucking drink it. And enjoy it, because nothing is guaranteed. And the way it's like, I'm going to get a book when I'm famous, or I'm going to get a book when I do this. And it's like, no, you first of all, if you write a good book, you get famous from that. And then that helps you sell tickets. You know, you're going to sell tickets. Your comedy club, people are going to come to the comedy club, be like, I read your book, I loved it, and oh my God, you're so funny, I'm glad I found it that way.
Because I knew I had that. This was all my advice and how I learned to get out of my way and create opportunities and see past this dark cloud. So I'm like, I have the knowledge. I don't need to be famous to put out this knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, you know, and there's a thing in the book too what we're talking about is almost validating yourself. You don't wait around for situations to happen. You make them happen.
Right.
Because if you're going to sit around and wait for people to validate you, especially in this business, you're going to be waiting around for the rest of your life. That's
100% true. And that's such a good lesson. And I remember when I shot my special. Okay.
Which was amazing, by the way. So congrats.
Oh, thank you so much.
Loved it.
I appreciate it.
So
thank you. But the nice thing was, we wanted everyone to see it. And that was our doing. That was my doing. I could have easily said, "Oh, we'll do this. We'll go here." And we were like, "Oh, you know what? It's pandemic. Nobody's really being able to see. Let's let everyone see it." And like, that was something that we did. And then everyone's like, "Oh, this needs to be here." That was in our control. People need to understand, like, a lot of times you think that there's a certain way because that's the typical way, or that's the way that people accept.
Yeah.
Right? People accept. It's almost like, and I'm not trying to knock anybody. Listen, college is important. Okay, college is important, education is important, but we have a set mind. The people have a mindset where it's like, I'm going to get good grades in high school, then I'm going to go to a college, then after college I'm going to try to get a job, and then I'm going to get benefits, and then all of a sudden you're fucking 58 years old, and that was it. And it's like, that's not always the way. You know, I mean, yes, I have more of an, and you do too. We have more of an entrepreneurial type of, that's who we are, but the regular path is not always, you know, you seized the moment. You seized the moment. You were sitting at home. You're like, I always wanted to write a book. Fuck it, I'm not going to wait anymore. I have the time. You wrote a book. And so let's talk about that for a second. So it's time to lighten the fuck up.
Which I thought was such a great title because everybody's just got their panties in a wad, especially the past 2 years. And it's like, really, I was like, I need a title that's going to stand out. That's going to...
it's a great I mean...
That I want to tell everybody, right? It's time to lighten the fuck up. Like, let's do it.
And that's a title that if I see that book, I got to be like, all right, what's this? Like, this is... Because I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
A lot of people. People are like, oh, I got to read that. That's a great... Titles are big in books, right? And that's a great one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Because it's so funny because you find yourself, I mean, and there were stressful moments with writing a book. It's not like a cakewalk, right? Even though I figured kind of got out of my own way and I don't have the mental health issues that I had and I feel like I'm on a good path, there's still times you get stressed.
Yeah.
But it's kind of become my mantra now to where I'll start getting worked up or stressed about something maybe I can't control and I'm like, time to lighten the fuck up. And I start laughing. So it's kind of like this mantra I now live by.
You said that the mental health stuff you kind of got past. What have you, is that therapy? Is it medication? Is it both? Is it like, what did you do to?
So I'm going to drop the bomb and it's in the book. And I think this is the most important thing your listeners need to pay attention to.
Let's go.
So when you feel sad, it's okay to feel sad. If it continues on, people think, okay, I'm going to get on an antidepressant. I'm going to go to a therapist. That's fine. You got to do what's best for you. However, it could simply just be your hormones, which are constantly changing with our environment, our stress, things around us as we age, and there's nothing you can do really to control it. So if your hormones aren't fully balanced, there's no amount of therapy or medication that's going to fix you. The medication really is just a Band-Aid. So when I was able to get off a mild antidepressant that I needed for 4 years because it was numbing me, I stopped crying at the end of Home Alone. And I was like, that's not normal. I always cry at the end of Home Alone. Something's not right.
That's great. You start watching your favorite movies and you're like, no, this is not. Yeah, that's great.
I was like, this isn't right.
That's great.
And I had lack of focus and I was trying to figure out what's going on. And my mom was like, you really should go get the hormones fix. And when I was at this mastermind, I had all these hormone doctors there. So I go and I realize they tell me, they're like, oh, well, this is why you feel like shit. Your testosterone's like basically not even there. Like you're at 19, you need to be at 200 to 300 for a woman. A man's around 1,500, but women need to be at 200 to 300 to be focused, to be balanced, to be happy, to be functional, to just be normal. And so they simply just figured out what I needed based on all the blood work, and they sliced me open a little bit right on my butt, and they dropped in the pellets, bandaged me up. It was the most painless thing ever. You felt one needle. That was it. And it just starts to run through your body, and it took about 3 weeks, and it's just like I snapped out of it. Anything I ever felt, it was gone. It was gone. There was no medication, no therapy, no nothing. So I tell people, I don't care how many mantras you do, law of attraction, self-help books, therapy, medication, the first thing I encourage everybody to do is to get your hormones checked. Now, here's the downside of our medical system.
Okay.
The tradition, if you go to your primary care doctor and you say, hey, I want a hormone test, and I've talked to doctors on my podcast about this, they're going to give, the insurance doesn't cover the test that's going to give you the information you need. So your hormone test will always show up normal, but you can go to a private practice doctor. The blood work will be covered by your insurance, but you can get them for like $300 and then another $300. But for under $1,000, you can take control of your health and start feeling good. Do you know how many people probably got divorced simply because they just needed their hormones balanced? So now every 6 months I go in, I get a full scan, and they figure out, okay, this is what needs to be, and then they just slice me open. Such a little thing. They put the pellets in, and 6 months later, I'm good to go.
So what you're saying is, though, my regular primary care doctor my levels will be normal with that.
Pretty much.
And why is that? Why?
Because the insurance won't cover the in-depth panel that you need to get to the root of the problem.
There's another level. There's another. You got to go a little deeper.
You got to pay out of pocket.
You got to go. So the insurance company just pays for almost like the surface thing.
Exactly.
But you got to dig a little deeper and take a in-depth kind of test to find out your blood and your hormones. And then once you do that, you pay a little. So you're saying you pay a little money, and they figure out what level you need to be. And then you said they put a pill.
They're like they almost look like little pellets, and they're custom to what you need. So mine was primarily testosterone that I needed. So they put these pellets in, and the only thing you felt was the needle go into your butt cheek for like a second.
Yeah.
They numb you, and then they slice you open so small.
And then they put
them in, so they start working throughout your body. Yeah, and it's a Band-Aid. It's not stitches. It's like a tape stitch. It's a waterproof thing. It stays on for 3 to 5 days. You don't even notice it's there. And then you take it off, and you're good to go. So I told my parents this, and they said, we've been doing that for the last 15 years. That's why our faces aren't sagging.
Wow.
You know?
Oh, well, there we got a picture of it.
Yeah. And that was it. And it was the most painless thing, and it was life-changing. And I haven't gone through menopause. I'm not old enough yet, but I really won't have the effects because
Mike's going to be doing that. Mike's going to be doing that shit tomorrow. He's like, I've been feeling.
I'm telling you, it is a game changer.
Well, let me ask you this though, real quick, and I meant to cut you off, but where does exercise fall in on this? So if you're feeling like that, because the one thing you always hear is like, if you exercise and it builds up, and it can that change the hormones at all too, or is this actually a supplement that you need?
So I'm not sure about that because I'm not like a hormone specialist, but exercise is critical. It obviously releases endorphins, things of that sort. But I was constantly exercising while I was
And you
depressed.
Still felt like that, okay.
Yeah. So I didn't realize what was happening to me was that my body wasn't functioning. So no matter what I did.
Right.
And when I was going through it, I was very broke, like the real depression. So I could barely afford my health insurance, let alone therapy. So I didn't have access to therapy. So I was really on my own. And it was like a very dark time. So I really had to pull myself out of this hole. But I was able to do it before the hormone thing. But when I started feeling bad again, I knew there was something more. I said, I'm not going back on antidepressants. I don't want to unless I have to. I'm not against it, but I don't want to do it if I don't have to. And sure enough, that hormone test, I mean, literally within 3 weeks, it was like a light went off. And it was just like, I'm back, bitches.
Oh, my God. And that's all in the book?
Yeah, I put in there, no, nothing will work for you. Not even this amazing book with a catchy title if your hormones aren't balanced. So you're wasting your money in therapy if you haven't got your hormones checked. Because maybe it's just a simple hormone fix that you actually need that runs your whole body, runs your whole system.
So, and the hormones could also change your mood, can do all that, right? Like it's
everything.
Yeah.
I've had women that have told me, I was at a point where I was so low in my life. I told my husband I regretted marrying him. I told my kids that I would just be really mean to my kids, and I was yelling at them, and I had no patience, and they were little, so they were making mistakes. And finally, it was a wake-up call, and I got my hormones checked, and when they got those back in balance, I saved my marriage, my relationship with my children. Everything changed. And then she left. She was a doctor at this point, like a regular doctor.
Wow.
She left to become special medicine because she knew she had to change other people's lives. So, but that's an amazing thing because you don't think about that. Like, if you still need therapy and you still need antidepressants, do that. But But
it doesn't mean your hormones aren't still out of whack.
Right, but it has to be private practice because you're not going to get the actual results. But
imagine if this book just changed the divorce rate in America. Like, you know, the way like divorce rates are like 50%, and all of a sudden you're like, no, just get a pellet in your ass. If everybody just gets a pellet in their ass and gets leveled out, things are going to be.
I think it's true.
That's amazing.
Do you know what statistic I actually read yesterday? Speaking of divorce, I read this.
Yeah.
This was crazy. So the divorce rate in this country is like 50%.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a 50-50 chance of it working out. Do you know that if you wait until marriage to have sex, What the number is of divorce, the statistic?
Hold on, let me guess. So if you wait to have sex when you're married,
Till you're married,
the divorce rate, I'm going to say the divorce rate gets lower. 30%?
5%.
Wait a minute.
And I was blown away, and I'm like, that's it. I'm zip tying this pussy shut. It's it. It's over.
Wait a minute. If 45% gets wiped out of divorce rate if you wait to get married, then have sex with the person, you have a 95% success rate. That's a real number.
Yep.
Wow.
Because I think you're taking more time to connect emotionally as people, doing things to build the relationship. A lot of relationships become very just pure sexual. And then when that starts to fade, there's not a whole lot keeping it together anymore, and it falls apart.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've learned about being married, me and my wife are going to be married 15 years next month.
Nice.
Next month, and we have 2 kids, yeah, she hates me right now, but no, you have to understand, it's like you got to be together in it, like almost like I don't want to say a business, because the physical stuff the emotional stuff is all important, but you also have to know, like, look, we're going to go through shit and we're going to go through ups and downs, but you have to just be like, no matter what, you got to stick together. Like that's really what it is. It's not just, but if one thing works, like just sex, that's not enough.
Nope.
Or, everything, you kind of need to have a piece of everything to kind of keep it together. But that's an amazing statistic.
I know, it blew my mind. And a lot of people really can't wait, or they'll say, well, how can you, what if the sex is terrible and you wait? I'm like, if you're truly in love with somebody, there's no possible way the sex could be terrible, because that's what makes sex magical, is the loving connection, not just the get it in. I mean, you could buy a pocket pussy for that if you need to.
Right. Yeah. So wow, that's like, because you want to be with that person. That's why you invested so much time, and you just decided to. Yeah, but I mean, that's hard to, like, it's got to be hard to go on dates and go get drinks and go back to somebody's house and be like, well, we'll be married in a year and a half. You're like, what the fuck?
No, I know. But actually, I was on Chrissy Mayer's show a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And she always has a porn star on there.
Oh, okay.
And I was talking to this one girl. Her name was Onyx. I forgot her last name. But actually, an amazing person, right? And she was telling me, she goes, "Oh, I fuck for career. I don't fuck a man until I get exactly what I want. I'm basically waiting till marriage." And I'm like, that's a little bit of different. She's already getting her rocks off, so it's easy for her to wait.
Yeah, I love how she's saying that. She's like, I would never fuck a guy until I really know him. I mean, I'll fuck 15 for fun. Today, actually, I had 15 today.
I know.
Yeah, that's so fun. I love how porn stars. This is the funny thing about porn stars too. I saw this thing where porn stars are like, yeah, like my husband and boyfriend, they think I'm boring. Like, it's nothing like what I do on TV. It's like, fuck you.
I know.
You just were swinging from the ceiling, like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, she's like, I'm just like in my pajamas, like laying there. I'm not into it. I'm like, you fucking selfish asshole.
I know, right?
You can't do that.
The hell?
Yeah.
It's like in that case, you have to bring your work home.
And I heard this. I never forget this. Who was it? There was when you flip through the phone and you see interviews, and one porn star was like, "Yeah, it's just like really hard to like settle down with a guy because they just like have a hard time with what I do." And it's like,
you think?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I kind of see his point. It's like, that's wild though, man. That statistic is actually like.
Yeah.
If anybody listening to the show has...
Oh, I got another one after that for you.
Oh, no, I'd love it. If anybody listening to the show has, any information on like the hormone thing, that if it worked for you or what Madison's talking about, you got the injection of the pellets and all that stuff, I love to hear it. Definitely write in and let us know, because that's amazing that somebody can be walking around just feeling off and just feeling something is not right, and they're working out, they're exercising, and they're talking to a therapist, and things are okay, but like there's still something, and then all of a sudden you find out that, what'd you say, your level was 19?
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be what?
200 to 300.
Yes, that's like there's got to be a lot more people out there like you.
Yeah.
That are just don't know.
I'll tell you what kind of wiped it out, and I think this is important for people to know, because I was somebody who, I try to be a good girl. I talk about sucking dick on stage, but I really don't just suck dick unless I'm like, really into somebody or love somebody, right? So I'm not just going to a bar for free drinks.
Right.
But there's times where you slip up and you make a mistake. And, you know, in my life, I would say, I don't know, for 20 years, maybe I've taken Plan B, I don't know, 10 times. It's not a lot, right?
Okay.
Like I don't, sometimes things happen. You just want to be safe. Maybe you didn't need it. So what I discovered, because I said, how could my testosterone have been wiped out? What have I been doing? Is it something I'm eating? Is it something I'm allergic to? She was like, have you taken any drugs recently? And I said, no, I don't do drugs. She was like, any over-the-counter medications? I'm like, I have a thyroid medication, but I take vitamins, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I took Plan B in May. And she goes, bingo. She goes, how many times have you taken that? She goes, every time that drug specifically to do what it needs to do is wiping out your testosterone. So the reason I'm bringing this up is not to say that I've been a hoe 10 times, but to college kids are popping this shit like Tic Tacs. It is dangerous. We are on a very dangerous path, and they're not saying there's a consequence for your actions, okay? Yeah. So it's okay to take in an emergency, but you should be taking other precautions to prevent yourself from having to take this. Obviously, abstinence is the best, and you're going to get more out of a man anyways. And then being on some sort of birth control or using condoms would be the best way. Yeah. But it is destroying the testosterone level in women, and men are going, why are women so fucking crazy these days? I don't know. Plan B's over the counter now, so I don't know.
So Plan B
happened
fucks.
To me.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Happened to me.
Yeah, and it's weird. And it's like you said, somebody younger in college might not even be thinking about it. They're just like, oh, this is something that I could just take. Wow.
Because it's not monitored anymore. Yeah. So it's not like the doctor can pull you over and be like, hey, like you're damaging your system doing this. You just pay $50 and you're out the door. Yeah. This is a horrific thing. People don't realize, oh, it's such an innocent thing. The first 2 times. Yeah. But then you're actually destroying your body from the inside. So it's crazy. And then another woman told me this statistic. And she said, women in particular, we can't really just be sexual and have all these sexual partners and operate like a man can. Because something's coming into us, every time we have, let's say, unprotected sex, a little bit of their DNA is being put into you. And with the DNA comes roughly 300 years of family trauma and drama that's kind of being put into you. So if you notice girls that sleep with a lot of men, they're not balanced. They kind of can be fucked up in a way because they're working on themselves. They're going to healing and whatnot, and then they're just getting pounded with fucking trauma. Wait a minute. I heard this.
Oh, this woman said that so that explains my wife's like. So now I can't even. This is taking away any argument I have with my wife. I'd be like, what happened? Why are you acting like this today? It's fucking you. It's your. So she's saying that you can give literally your baggage and your trauma and your shit to
from
somebody
300 years.
Wow.
Like down the line. So I made a joke about it in the book because I was like, I have to put this in the book. But when she told me this, I'm like, are you telling me like every time I have unprotected sex, I potentially have the Industrial Revolution in my pussy? Because no one feels like they're working that hard. This is insane.
Yeah, that 300 years?
Yeah. I know. It was mind-blowing. And I don't know like what the accuracy on that is, but if you talk to spiritual people, they're probably going to be like, hey, yeah, this is actually true. So the more you can protect yourself, I call it the power of the pussy. And I think more women need to exercise this. You're lucky you're married, so you don't have to deal with this. Yeah. But we give it up too easy. And then we wonder where our power is. And women will say, well, how do you keep the power? How do you you stop fucking them. You stop fucking them until you get what you want, whether it's a relationship,
listeners, don't leave
a car,
I just
said
listeners just like, oh man, don't tell her that. No, well but that's funny because it does explain the divorce rate thing. That's a crazy, crazy thing. Like, that's still sticking with me that, like, it's, because, because in order to get to that point, you really have to stick out and know the person and know that you really love that person.
Yeah.
right, in order to stick it out, where sometimes maybe the sex is what drives the relationship, which is never going to work in the long run, like you said, because once that runs out and that was really all that's there, then, you need somebody that you connect with, like, intellectually. You need somebody that, like, is smart enough where you could sit and have a conversation with them.
Exactly.
That's one thing that, like, my wife is super, super smart. Like, me and my wife could talk about, me and my wife watch a movie and she'll break so much shit down in the movie that I didn't even, like, a whole other thing.
Awesome.
A whole other thing, and, like, that's like, also, I remember seeing my wife with young children before we got married was something that I was like, oh, this is a woman that knows what the fuck she's doing with kids.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Huge.
To see stuff like that, where as somebody that's just like calling their boys going, oh, we had sex, it was amazing, I'm marrying this chick. It's like, yeah, well, you don't know really how that's going to go. You mentioned something that I want to talk about, and a lot of people don't talk about it because they feel that they're going to be judged. A lot of people don't talk about it because they feel like people will think that they're silly or crazy or just whatever. And I'm not one of those people. You talked about faith. And I'm somebody that, I have faith and I pray. And I believe that putting things out there, and I believe in the power of prayer and saying things and really putting it out there has guided me. I believe that. I know that, actually.
Yeah.
And when you say that to people are like, oh, and it's like, no, man, you could believe what you want to believe.
Totally.
This is your life. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, but I know for me and what I believe and what I know to be true is that. And you had mentioned that before, and I don't want to gloss over that because I think the power of prayer is something that is amazing. And I think that, and I know he seems preachy and he seems like he's turning into a little bit of Dr. Phil, but Steve Harvey talks about this.
I love him.
And when he's like, when you ask for things, and I remember, Jim Carrey did it in his way, where he talked about just putting things out there in the universe. But I believe that everybody has a path. I believe in destiny. I believe in that stuff. So did you touch on that in the book?
Chapter 4. It's called Time to Step into Your Faith. And
Nice.
I was a little nervous about, I said, faith is so important, and the reason, honestly, for the book. But I said, how am I going to have a chapter about God and faith with a title that has the F word in it?
Right.
So I had to be very careful with it. But I addressed it. And I said, it feels a little weird, talking about God in a book with the F word in the title.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyways because I believe that our God is such a loving God. It's us that makes him a don't do that, don't do that, don't do this type controlling God, where I think he made us with dirty senses of humor and loves us in our being and wants to laugh. And it's us that turned him into this like kind of judgmental thing. So I said that, and I think the reason people are turned off from religion is because they feel judged when they go into a church. That's not God. God doesn't judge. I mean, you shouldn't do things like murder and steal and cheat and all that crap, but you need to know that. You'd have to be an idiot not to know that. But I would focus on, in the past, I used to say, like, because it wasn't, I don't know, people didn't like to talk about God, and it was really bad. People would say, I'm spiritual. That was their way to get around it, to not,
I noticed that,
like, include everybody. I'm spiritual.
If you ever talk to somebody and you say what you believe, people just, like, you can, like, literally feel people go, oh, here we go, or here we go. And it's like, no, man, you don't know. Like, you don't know what is. Like,
I wear it proud now. And I know that, like, people are kind of, the media is pushing this narrative. Because if you can get people away from God, you control them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happening. I mean, that's a whole other discussion.
Right.
For another day. But you got to always have faith in God. Our world is falling apart right now.
Yeah.
But I have faith that God is still in control. We just don't see it sometimes.
Yeah.
But he still, like, is in control.
Yeah.
But faith is very important. So I would practice the law of attraction, manifestation, writing your goals out, vision boards.
Oh, dude, that whole thing about saying things.
It didn't work for me.
What, saying things into existence did not work?
Just a vision board or saying things or looking at a list.
Well, you wanted to do this, though, right?
I did, but here's what worked for me when I started praying.
Okay.
Which is a different form of the law of attraction. It's kind of the same thing. You're believing something's going to be yours that you can't see. It's called faith.
Right. And
the prayer became my version of law of attraction. So yeah, it may be the law of attraction and easy to explain, but for me, it was prayer. And I used to tell my family all the time, pray for me. And they were like, okay. They went to this Bible study. And then they said, do you pray for yourself? And I said, no. How do you do that? And then finally I started, and it's amazing. Every time I have a phone call that I need good results on, I'll pray about it. I believe that God's protecting me, so if something doesn't work out, like with a romantic partner or a business thing, I'm like, thanks, God. I don't wallow in it. I don't become like a victim mentality, whatnot.
Right.
And then I have a vision board. I talk about in there also a digital vision board. Because sometimes God will show you that things need to change. So if you do arts and crafts and you have a vision board on your wall, it's harder to change those things because now you got to build the whole thing over again or tape over.
Right.
So I like to do digital vision boards on the computer.
You could just delete something.
You just delete it and you re-upload it because sometimes...
like, no, you know what? That didn't work out the way I wanted to. Delete.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got a new one. And
you're not stuck with this art collage that you're like, shit, I got to make this work. That's so... Yeah.
And then I'll pray...
Yeah.
You know, if it's a result or something I need, like I'll pray about it, and it's changed my life completely. So no, I wear my Christianity proud.
No, that's great that you feel the way you feel, and your faith is what your faith is, and you put it in your book. And like I said, like it's never something like I'm never going to sit there and preach to somebody what they don't. But you're never going to. It's the same thing as like
I'm not converting anybody.
No, nobody. Yeah, you're not going to go to a barbecue and you'd be a Democrat or a Republican and you talk to the opposite and change them while you're playing beanbag toss. It's not gonna. It's just never going to happen. It's the same thing with faith and you know and religion and stuff like that. You're never going to do it. But respect what I think, and I'll respect what you think. That's how I look at it. You're just people just respecting it. But I love that you put your real, like, you know, what you really feel in the book. I find it really interesting with the hormone thing and all the things that you put in the book, your faith and all that stuff, and the fact that somebody told you to go to fucking Mexico within what's that 72 hours, and you were like, go to Mexico, and you're like, maybe, all right, and then you do it, and then you meet the now, so where can people get this book?
Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
I got to tell you something. I was at my publisher put on this like workshop for authors this weekend about building your business beyond your book.
Right.
And there was all these brilliant minds, and we were in Dallas, Texas, and I got to speak, and it was great. But there was this marketing genius. So he used to tour around with like Air Supply and Guns N' Roses. His name was Craig Dussault or something like that. I think it's Dusalt, but everyone has to look this guy up.
Okay.
So this guy was telling us, he's like a marketing genius. So he said, if your book is not carried in the store, fucking put it there. Because what will happen is somebody will go to buy the book, they'll scan it, realize it's not in the system, and it prompts the system to order it. So I'm flying home in Dallas at the airport, and I go to Hudson News, and there's a Dunkin' Donuts there, and I'm waiting for my bagel and my coffee. And I'm like, But here's the thing where God worked in my favor, okay? So I go, I'm going to put 2 of these books in the Hudson News in the Dallas airport, okay? So in the bestseller section, there's a whole new bestseller thing. There happened to be an empty space.
Wow.
Just waiting for me. I didn't have to move anyone's book. I didn't have to cover anyone's book. It was literally like God being like, here you go. Just an open space all the way. So I stuck my books there, looked around to make sure nobody was staring. It was reverse shoplifting.
What?
Yeah.
You
just
put your book on the bestsellers table that said bestsellers, and you just put your books there.
Yeah, it was open. It was waiting for me. I just stuck them right there.
So now, that's hilarious. Comics, you hear that? Get your hours and your albums and just. So wait a minute. So now what happens? Now if somebody picks up the book, someone's like, oh, it's time to lighten the fuck up, and they scan it and they see that it's not there.
So it'll prompt them probably to order it.
Wow.
Yep.
You did it with 2 books? You put 2 books there?
I had 2 books there. I'll probably start running around different stores and just dropping them everywhere.
Oh, my God.
Because I get them for cheap, obviously. All I have to do is pay the printer the cost.
That's amazing. That's the greatest thing ever.
I know.
Oh,
I heard that. I'm like, this guy's a freaking genius. And this guy, he had a course. When he did a book, he already had like a marketing guru course.
Yeah.
So he goes, I wrote a book, and I decided I was going to spend $300,000 buying my own books out of distribution, and I was giving them away.
Yeah.
But he goes, but I knew my book would sell my course. See, I don't have a course yet. So I gave him away, and he goes, that $300,000 turned into $30 million. Because people had read the book, they bought the course.
Yeah.
So he goes, that was a way for me to do it. But he goes, if you, like, you can go into a Barnes & Noble, and if you don't see that on the counter, they're going to order it.
Yeah.
But if they start seeing it in the store, but it's hilarious. It literally is reverse shoplifting. It's amazing.
That's
you just
amazing.
give the store something they need.
Well, you know what's funny is, too, giving something away, just giving something, what it does, like, I know this comic, he went to London, and there was like 300 people in the crowd. And he gave away one of his hours, one of his old hours. He just gave everybody in Europe his I don't know if it was a CD at the time. I don't know what it was. Gave them either access to his hour or gave him a physical copy of his hour. The next time he went to London, he went from 300 to a theater, because it's because people are going to talk. People are going to go, oh my God, like this performer, they came here. They're probably, listen, if you give away 300 copies of something, you're losing money. You're losing money in the moment. You're not losing long money. You're losing short money.
Yeah.
But then look, then you go back and people are like, oh my God, now they're familiar with your past work. They're excited you're back, and the numbers just double. There's really something to that. That's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
But I love, it'd be funny if you just showed up to Barnes & Noble with like a carload, and but your own setup, like you had your own table, like you put like bestseller, your picture, and then you wrote, she'll be here this afternoon signing books. They're like, wait, the head of Barnes & Noble was like, I guess nobody told me, like, you're just sitting in a chair. You bring fans, so like there's a line.
There's a line.
So like
do this.
There's like a bus on the side, and you should do this. You should show up to a Barnes & Noble with 150 people. Just get them there, however you can. Have them wait outside with Sharpies. You come with a cardboard thing of you, like holding your book, a table, and then just like have like a fake security take you, and just walk up to the head person there and go, yeah, she'll be ready in 5 minutes. We're just gonna set up, and then you sit there. What are they gonna do if there's 150 people waiting online, all holding Sharpies? And you hand out 150 books to them. So now you're just sitting in a chair. What's Barnes & Noble going to do? They can't do anything. You're going to have 100. You'll be like, hey, they're going to go shopping after. That'd be epic. Dude,
I know.
You should do a documentary. You should shoot a documentary of how you made a book.
Yeah.
Okay, you wrote a book, then you started putting it on like Hudson News and things like that, and then find out how big it could get. It would be like, it's like the greatest business con ever, because you're really not hurting anybody.
I'm not. Not at all.
All you're doing is you're giving your book out, but like that's like...
But how funny was it that I didn't have to move anyone's books? It's like God literally opened a space for me. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I was like, because I didn't want to take somebody's book and cover it up, because that's not nice.
Yeah, imagine you like, you're not.
It was just there.
Yeah, you're talking about faith and you're knocking somebody's stuff over.
Right.
That's it. Like that's so funny. You just saw like a little place where it was like lit up
under bestsellers. And it was right there.
Under bestsellers.
And I pulled him out, and the cashier was his back towards me, and I just went, whoop.
Dude, you literally can literally pull a Borat in a business way, where you just show up somewhere. Dude, that would be the greatest like thing ever. Where you would just have to have you'd have to have somebody organize 150 people. Or no, let's make it even like, let's say like even a line of 75 people, they would be. Yeah. 75 people would be like, what's going on? But it would be funny that you just invest money in a life-size cardboard cutout of you holding the book, and you just put it next to it, and you show up with a guy with an ear set, like your security. Yeah. You pull up in like a dark SUV where they're like, oh, the author's here.
Yeah.
Oh, you could even send like somebody in that you just to go up to the person and go, oh, the author's here. And they're like, what? And, no, Madison Malloy, she's here. She's for the signing. Oh my God.
Amazing?
That would be, would you get arrested for that?
I don't know. It's catchy, because are they going to turn all these customers?
Did you get arrested for that?
I think you could get kicked out of Barnes & Noble. I don't think Barnes & Noble's calling the cops.
I feel like I
should
should go to a bookstore that doesn't carry my book right now, because Barnes & Noble does carry the book. It's just not in all the stores. So I think I need to go to like a Tattered Cupboard. Or like a Hudson
But
News.
I think if she goes in dressed professional, coffee, security guy, like very nice and polite, and then there's a line, that's just going to be so confusing. I've told this story before, but I'll just tell you real quick, and this is an abbreviated version, because I don't want to sound like a broken record on the show. I'm young. I'm in high school. We go to a nightclub. I'm hammered. It's 2:00 in the morning, and I want food, and there's nowhere to go. And I don't think I can legally say, there's a very popular, famous donut place that has the same initials for the 2 words that it is.
Okay.
Okay. And I go, I'm hungry. I'm going to get free food. And my buddy goes, oh yeah, how are you going to get free food? And I go, he goes, you got no money. I go, just pull up. It's 2:00 in the morning. I take my sweater off. I got a white T-shirt under it. I wipe dirt from the floor on my hand, and I wipe it all over the T-shirt. And he had a hard hat and a level there. He had construction shit back there. So I put on a hard hat. I grab a level. It's 2:00 in the morning. I go there, and I walk up, and I go, hey, man, I'm sorry. My last job was running late. And out of nowhere, the woman just goes, oh, my God, is Vinny your boss? Out of nowhere. And I just go, yeah. Next thing you know, I'm behind the counter. I'm in the thing. I'm in the back. I start pointing at wires. I start telling them that's a hazard. That's a hazard. You know, I start saying, I put a level on the table. I said, this, you got to put some coasters under there to level it out. All kinds of, I swear to God.
This is hilarious.
It was like Beverly Hills Cop when he went into the warehouse. I swear to God, I just started, and they just believed it. And she said, can I get you anything? Do you want it? I was like, yeah, I'll take like a bacon, egg, and cheese in it and an orange juice. And I got it. I walked out. My friends were, I swear to God, that's the truth.
If you do something with conviction, that's all you need.
You can. That's
an amazing story.
One thing I like to do with my kids is, because I tell my kids, I go, people will believe anything.
Yeah.
So we'll be like in a Dick's Sporting Goods, and I'll just walk up to somebody and I'll be like, hey, did you see a dog running around here? And the woman will go, what? I go, did you see our dog run? And my kids start blushing and stuff, and the person's like, no, and they get real concerned. And you know, my kids are like, don't do that, Dad. But people, or if you ever, with conviction, just look at a complete stranger. Just look at a complete stranger with conviction. I go, hey man, how you doing? You been good? They'll just be like, yeah. Like, it's amazing what people will believe.
I know.
You know, that was one of the things. Actually, I think the Impractical Jokers did, one of their challenges was going up to somebody and making them think that you guys were at a party together. I'm like, dude, you remember? And like most of the people say no, but you'll get the person to just go, oh yeah, man, how's he doing? Yeah. Like hug you. And it's just like somebody walking into the park. But that would be amazing if you did that. Now, so what's next for you? Do you want to write another book? Are you going back to stand up? You doing both? Like,
so I love the stage. I love stand up, but I didn't like the lifestyle as much. The late nights and things of that sort. Waiting around till 10:50 to get on stage on a Sunday. I'm like, oh God, I want to be in bed. And but I love inspiring people and helping people. And so I'm doing like public speaking more now. So I'll still do comedy, like when I get invited. Now that you don't want to do comedy, everybody out of their mother is like, come do my show, and you're like, wait, I'm trying. But I'll still have jokes within the speeches. I've got ideas for my next 2 books, but it's stuff that I'm actually doing myself, like challenges I'm doing myself that I want to write about to make sure I've mastered the craft before I can put that in there. And then I create and produce like reality television shows. So hopefully you'll see some of those soon. Oh,
that's amazing. Well, congratulations. Yeah. So I want to ask you one last question too. So what would you say to somebody that wants to write a book? What would you say one thing you absolutely have to do and a mistake that they should not do? If they are like, did you learn? I'm sure you learned, but like, so something that you advice, if somebody went up to you and they were like, Madison, I want to do what you did. You wrote a book during a pandemic and you had the time and you really sat down and you made that happen. I want to do the same thing. What is something that I definitely should do? And what would be like, don't do that. That's a mistake.
So the first thing I would do is get clear on what the book should be about. Right? Whether it's, and don't worry about the title, like what is the premise of the book and who is your audience?
Okay.
Especially if it's self-help. If it's fiction, you can make all the stuff up. But if you're doing like a self-help or a nonfiction book, who is the audience that you're talking to? And what is the book about? And then outline like the chapter kind of titles, and then you can start going into it. It's very important if you're writing a nonfiction book that you are authentic. I think that that's such an important thing. So one of the best tips that I learned and tricks that I used was a lot of the book was actually transcribed. So I didn't have to sit there and write and type every letter. I would be in a parking lot and I would have a thought come to me about something. That's and cool. I would start recording That's it. Cool. So I would get my tone, how I speak, the right dialect. Nothing would be missed. And then I'd upload that fucker to Zoom, spit out a transcribe, and then throw it into a Word document, add to, and clean it up. And it was a brilliant way, and it was so much quicker. And I've heard a lot of authors actually do this.
If Stephen King heard this, he'd be so disgusted. He would be like, this is like the auto-tune of, but you know something? That's true,
it's
because
smart.
we have
Work
this.
Smarter, not harder.
We have this where you can literally say it in. No. Yeah. It is smarter. Yeah. you can say it in your tone with the cadence that you wanted to say it in, save it, and then all of a sudden it goes and it translates onto paper. So you'd be in a parking lot shopping somewhere or something, and all of a sudden you would have
not all the chapters, but some of them. But I needed, like, especially the time where I was explaining life. Like, you're going through life and it's just exhausting. You're going through the motions and you're doing this and you're expecting this big boom and you were supposed to be somebody and you're not. And it was like, life just, and I wanted to be real about it. Like, life starts to feel like you're just at a frat party sucking everyone's dick so you'll get invited back next time. And then you show up and it's the same fucking sausage fest. Because I'm like, that is authentic. Because so many people feel like, life just feels like you're sucking everybody's dick all the time. You know?
All right, so then I guess that would be the mistake is don't suck.
Don't suck dick. Oh, the mistake would definitely be
don't suck dick at a frat party.
Yeah,
have a good episode.
Exactly.
I mean, that was our episode, everybody. Go ahead. That's great. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then I would say a mistake is thinking that you have to be somebody to write a book.
No,
don't
see that's something you said.
Go for it.
Right, like if you think, oh, you know what, after I do this or after I get in that movie I'll write you're like, no, if you want to write a book, write the book.
Exactly. Just do it. Do anything you want. You're the only one holding you back from anything. Nobody's going to give you fucking permission. We wait around for permission. Stop doing that.
Open that bottle of wine now.
Open that bottle of wine, create that digital vision board, and fucking do you.
Well, that's
you.
Madison Malloy. This has been so interesting. One of the more interesting episodes because with the statistics and all the things that you put in there and what you did. And look, you know, you were in Colorado, not in New York City, not in LA. And you're like, I'm going to do this, write a book. And now you're in these major cities promoting this book. And the book is doing very well, guys. The book is called Time to Lighten the Fuck Up by Madison Malloy. Very interesting stuff. You're going to see a lot more of her. Thank you so much for being here. I was going to say, is there and your social media is
so my Instagram's at Real Madison Malloy, and then Twitter's Madison Malloy. I have my weekly podcast that he mentioned at the beginning.
And that's MALLOY.
Yep. And then the podcast is Next to Madison. It's a business self-help podcast. So I talk to experts like hormone doctors that educate me on these subject matters, and crypto people and coaches, and anything to make you happier, healthier, and wealthier.
Nice
is the drive. So check that out.
No, check that out and buy the book. Buy the book because I know it's great and she's great and all that. So definitely pick that up. And guys, I will be at the Stress Factory in New Brunswick in New Jersey, November 10th through the 12th. I'm also going to be at the Fairfield Comedy Club in Connecticut in December. You could go to paulvirzi.com for all those dates. Check out the Anything Better podcast that I co-host with Bill Burr, and we're doing the NFL picks, another part of the Anything Better podcast where we pick the football games. Obviously, the Virzi Effect. Get the Virzi Effect everywhere you get your podcasts on iTunes, Spotify. Get my socials. Hope to see you guys at a show. And please keep checking the special Nocturnal Admissions. It's doing great on Netflix. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I am out of here. Talk to you guys soon.